This is One Voice Lenawee. Stay informed. COVID vaccinations and booster shots. How does this affect our children, finances, and the cost of living, race, and the fight for equity and equality? What will education look like in the future? What you should know about good health practices, employment, and job interviews in today's world. You need to know. Stay connected. One Voice Lenawee. Access to the information you've been looking for. Sponsored by United Way of Monroe and Lenawee counties. Now we present to you our host, D'Angelo Boone.
Thank you for joining the show today. I really appreciate you coming on. And if I can, this meeting is being live streamed. Got it? Okay. All right. So if I can, I would like to introduce our guest today. First of all, I want to welcome you all to One Voice Lenawee. And welcome you to One Voice Lenawee. This is our first show. And of course, we've run into a few hiccups, but we are still good to go. We're excited to be here. Glad to be here with our audience as well. And I just wanted to say, for those of you who are watching the show right now, if you could go ahead, if you're not already subscribed to our channel, please subscribe to our channel. Again, this is One Voice Lenawee, and we are glad to have you as a part of our audience today as well. So please hit that subscribe button. If you wouldn't mind taking this link, sharing it on your page with your friends, your family, your loved ones, so that you can learn more about what we're going to discuss today. And right now, I would like to introduce Dr. Julie Yarrow, who is the president of ProMedica, the Charles and Virginia Hickman Hospital, ProMedica, and the senior vice president for pharmaceuticals and retail. And I may be missing one, I'm not sure. At this moment, Dr. Yarrow, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
And just looking forward to just getting into some dialogue with you, and just looking to notify our community of what's up with our vaccinations and in COVID. And I know this is a very different climate for our community, for our world, for our friends and our family. So just want to take the opportunity to provide some education for different ones in our community that I know is really looking to be informed, to really understand what's taking place, understand the climate of the world today. And there are a lot of concerns out there. There are a lot of questions. There are a lot of theories out there that I think that we just need to have some education, have a light shined on it, so that folks can really understand it and have information from valid sources. I've had the opportunity to take a look at a lot of different theories from a lot of different media sources, social media sources. And my hope, even with the show, is that we're able to give information from a reputable source that people can really hold on to and know this is reputable, this is true information, and that they can make decisions based on real life information from reputable sources and from the medical field itself. If I can ask this question before we go into some of the other questions that we have, what has been your experience with COVID this past year?
Oh my gosh. Actually, I think it's been almost 2 years now is our experience with COVID. So it's been a roller coaster ride. I know people commented that it's kind of an ebb and flows or a fluid process. It feels like it's been nonstop since that first announcement was made back, I think it was around March a couple of years ago. Our team has been putting processes and plans in place because you could never have been prepared for a global pandemic. When I talk to counterparts who have been in this business much longer than I have, they comment they've never seen anything like this, from the results of COVID to the increasing census in our hospitals, how it's changed the community's general outlook in healthcare, and even the staffing shortages that many of us are feeling across the states. So this has been crazy. A lot of long hours, really hard working, committed, compassionate staff. It's the frontline staff, our nurses, our techs, our therapists, our physicians that are really taking the brunt of this pandemic. They're exhausted. I always say, as people are figuring out what board game to play at home, my team's just wishing they could be at home and seeing their family. It's been all hands on deck and a really creative, passionate team, but it feels like now we're in a war and we're doing our third or fourth duty, and it's not ending quickly.
I can only imagine how exhausting it must be for your staff that's working there, and in the uptick in the numbers of COVID positive patients and individuals in community. That it's got to be a unusual challenge for those that are serving in the medical field in this season?
Yeah, it's constant change. And some of that, we've prepared our whole life for this. But what you can't prepare is the emotional strain that this pandemic has put on us. We've watched a lot of people die that shouldn't, and it's all age groups. A lot of people feel that this is afflicting the older population that have a lot of medical diagnoses. But I think in our county, it was just announced we might have had our first pediatric death because of COVID-19. We're seeing a lot of very young, healthy individuals go on ventilators. And then early in this pandemic, we had to put a lot of strict visitor restrictions when we didn't really know a lot about the vaccine in place. And so we watched people scared and die and alone. Our team had to be their caregivers, but also their surrogate family. And that's hard because as human beings, we know we want to be surrounded by folks we love. And so this has been really tough to watch.
Wow. Well, I want to jump into some of the questions that we have here. If you don't...
No, love questions. Questions are good right now.
Some of the concerns in our community is regarding long-term complications. So some things that families are discussing that may take place years from now. This is their concern about taking the vaccinations now between whether it's the Moderna, Pfizer, or Johnson & Johnson. What their concerns is, what is it going to do to me long-term? Has this been tested? Have we seen any results from this? So that's one of the questions that I would like to bring up right now is, what are the long-term complications, or are there any long-term complications?
So in part of that question, I'd love to do it in two parts. So first, I'll address your question on long-term side effects of the vaccine, but your viewers also need to start thinking about what could be the long-term side effects of having a COVID infection. An easy way that I can explain that one is when, you have chicken pox, many people get vaccinated for it because they don't want to get shingles. So there's another example of a virus that we know has long-term side effects. And COVID, we're still studying, so we don't know that part, but I'd love to circle back to that. But, as it relates to the vaccine, this vaccine has probably had the most intense safety monitoring in US history. I've been asked questions, have the studies been shown to have efficacy against different ethnicities, different people of different skin colors? And yes, Moderna, Pfizer, J&J all had different ethnic groups in their studies. So African American, Hispanic, Asian, J&J even had Native Americans. So well-versed study group, great diversity as well as age groups. We know there's a data reporting system called VAERS, and that's the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. That's been around for a long time, but many of us probably never heard of it until COVID, because now when we vaccinate folks for the COVID vaccine, we give individuals the data on the VAERS reporting system so they can report any side effect that they have. So when you look at some of the stats, I believe in the United States, we've administered over 223 million vaccines. So that's a lot of data we're collecting. And that data, the VAERS system captures potential side effects, but it can't tell us if that side effect is truly due to the vaccine. So when you look at that data, you have to realize people can report anything, but it's not proven until the scientists look into each and individual report if it's truly due to the vaccine. But what we know right now to date, there's 2 serious side effects that could happen after vaccination. And this is really rare. And most side effects would occur within the first 6 weeks. And I want to just emphasize that the risks of having COVID are higher than the risks of having an adverse reaction. So we're talking less than 0.001% are demonstrating this. But the first is anaphylactic reaction, which folks can have to any type of vaccine. And that's a severe reaction to one of the substrates in the vaccine. So you could have significant shortness of breath, elevated heart rates. A lot of people will say their throat looks like it's swelling. And if we have one of those reactions, then typically we treat it with antihistamines, so Benadryl, or steroids to try to reverse that effect. And then what we've seen reported out is about 5 individuals per million vaccines that we've administered get an anaphylactic reaction. So 5 in a million, so pretty low. The other one is what's called a thrombotic thrombocytopenic event. So that's just a fancy way of saying people that get blood clots with low platelets, which platelets are part of your blood. And we saw that in females that were less than 50 years of age with the J&J vaccine. And as of, I believe, the end of October data, they had vaccinated about 15.5 million people with J&J vaccine, and they had 48 cases of this. So again, really rare. It wasn't felt that that complication required us stopping the use of that vaccine. So the numbers are really small as it relates to the side effects. Most people, when they get the vaccine, particularly the second dose of a Pfizer or a Moderna, will have some localized reactions. So sore arm, redness at the injection site, fatigue, muscle aches, sometimes fever or chills. And they'll last anywhere from 24 to 48 hours. And then you wake up and you feel perfectly fine the way that you felt prior to getting vaccinated. We're also seeing the same incidents happen with people that are getting the booster. But again, you kind of go home, you take the day off, and you wake up the next day feeling fine. But if I could, just really quick, there's also long-term side effects we're seeing of COVID infection, and they're called the long haulers. And those are people that weeks, months, even greater than a year are still having problems with fatigue, breathing issues. I just talked to a friend who had COVID prior to the vaccine being out, and she's still requiring oxygen, and she was a triathlete. So no problems, just very bad luck. And a lot of people are having problems with concentrating. They call it brain fog, memory issues, sleeping disorders, loss of taste and smell. Some people are having heart issues, so they're requiring cardiac follow-up. So we are seeing from the data that we're collecting, there's also long-term side effects of getting the COVID infection.
Wow. Oh. Would you say that the smaller amount of cases that are coming back in 0.001%? Wow. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
Would you say that the ones that are coming back negative are really promoting experience on social media larger than the ones in the greater population? Is that something that we're seeing?
So D'Angelo, you kind of broke up on me. So I'm wondering if, I think what you said is that is media kind of publicizing those rare ones that are having the reaction as opposed to everybody who's doing well?
Yes.
I'll be honest with you. I have been so busy during all of this. I don't look at social media. I have not been keeping up with the news because there's so many different, so much different information or conflicting information out there. So I will tell you, in healthcare, we kind of go with the Bible, and that's the CDC. So the Centers for Disease Control, that is the source of truth that we are following. So that is what we follow as opposed to all the news announcements that you're hearing. But I will say from our personal experience, just in all the vaccine clinics that we've done in Southern Michigan and Northern Ohio, I would say probably the media is taking advantage of those few rare individuals that do have reaction. And they're not really publicizing all the data of those of us that have done perfectly fine with the vaccine.
Thank you. Thank you. There was a question I was having a conversation in community. A question came up regarding breastfeeding, and infants contract COVID through breastfeeding process.
Yeah. So there's some good news. So right now there's no reports that the virus has passed through breast milk. So that's great news. However, moms can still infect their babies just from the close contact through respiratory droplets. So if you sneeze, cough, even if you laugh, that virus is located in your saliva, and you can transmit it to your infant, just like you can transmit it to any adult, any human of any age. So what I would highly recommend is for those moms that are breastfeeding, contact their pediatrician or their obstetrician to get guidance. But what I have read and listened to other providers suggest is that those moms pump. And when they pump, they mask while they're pumping. And they make sure they're washing their equipment and washing their hands thoroughly. And that until they're in that non-infective phase, that they continue to provide breast milk that way, just to minimize the risk of the close contact. But again, if you have to be in close contact, mask at all times. Realizing that you are infected up to 10 days after you test positive for COVID or you develop signs or symptoms. And even if you are past those 10 days, you need to be a minimum of 24 hours afebrile, so no fever for 24 hours. So if it's day 10, but you're still having a fever, you're still contagious. So make sure that you stay mindful of washing hands, masking, social distancing until you've had no fevers for 24 hours.
That's awesome information to know. And I know for new mothers out there, that's going to be huge for them. And that's going to help to really address their concerns when it comes to their infants. So I definitely appreciate that. When the vaccinations first came out, we all, myself, and I'll just speak for me primarily, is that I thought that was it. That was a cure for it, that there would be no need for any additional shots, that after I got my second Pfizer shot, that I was good. And then here comes the booster shot. And so now this drives another wave of conversation in community, a lot of different concerns in community, as well as why do we need a booster shot if the first 2 shots, or if you were taking, I think it was Moderna that just offered 1 shot, if you were taking those shots, shouldn't that have been enough? And if we're getting the booster shot, is there going to be another booster shot that's going to be necessary after the first booster shot? So if you could address that.
Yeah, so boosters. So we know that with time, the effectiveness of these vaccines, all 3, decrease. So when you get vaccinated, you develop antibodies, and those antibodies are what keep all of us healthy and help us fight the infection if we're in contact with the virus. But with time, the effectiveness of the vaccine starts going down, as does the antibody count starts lowering. So that's why the booster, it's to kind of jumpstart your immune system and get those antibodies back up. What we do know for those folks that have completed a 2-shot series, so Moderna or Pfizer is the 2-shot and J&J is the 1, that you still do have protection even without that booster. So it's still protecting you from severe cases of COVID. So it still has great efficacy against death as a result of COVID or hospitalization due to high acuity inpatient needs. However, what we are seeing is that its effectiveness against infection and viral spread starts diminishing with time. And so what is recommended is to get that booster shot, 6 months after you completed either the Pfizer or the Moderna series, or 2 months after the J&J series. And I've seen some preliminary data of the effectiveness after the booster, and it goes even higher than what we saw after the initial 2 shots or 1 shot of J&J. So the data is really good. Will we need to continue to do this? Probably. Again, we don't have the data, but probably it will be likely that every year we may need to get a booster. And it's very similar to the flu shot. There's lots of vaccines that we're already doing that we need to get boosters after so many years. They don't last in your system for eternity. We would all love that, but that doesn't happen. So again, I would highly encourage that everybody get their booster, and you can mix manufacturers with the booster. Meaning if you got Pfizer, you can get J&J or you can get Moderna. So you can do that. Also, I believe on Friday, it was announced that you can do boosters for all. So all you have to do is be 18 years of age and you can walk in anywhere that has vaccine and get your booster shot.
Are they looking to offer booster shots for those under 18 at some point?
Right now, we don't have the data or the information, but more than likely, yes, they will. I mean, great news that we were able to get pediatric dosing for 5 to 11. So my son just came running through the door. He was so excited to get vaccinated. I don't know how often that happens. But chances are that we will see that happen. You know, for the pediatric dose 5 to 11, it's a smaller dose than what we gave to adults. So I'm guessing with time, as they watch the data and how the kids are responding to this, we'll get some further information of when that booster shot will need to happen.
Okay. All right. Well, that's wonderful to know as well. That's
Yep. Yeah, and I encourage people get your booster. You know, we are starting to see COVID counts go up again. We're in a surge within a surge. I'm not certain what that means. But Michigan, I think, is now the highest state for COVID counts in the United States, which is not good news. And I think some of that, we're still seeing a high proportion of people unvaccinated. They're requiring hospital beds. But also we are worrying, as people are maybe hesitant to get that booster, we need to get that extra shot in arms so we have as strong of immunity response as possible.
Now, here is a very interesting question that I received just in general conversations with different ones. When it comes to Black and brown people, the question has been, is the vaccination something that is specific to one race over another? And should those that are Black and brown be more cautious of taking these vaccinations? And is there enough research out there that would, I guess, calm the concern of Black and brown people in the community, whether this vaccination is safe?
So again, I think from talking with you, I've learned some of the hesitancy or just some of my colleagues of color and sharing the history and why they're hesitant. So again, ask questions. I love when people are open about their concerns, because that's the only way that we can try to get the information they need. And, from reading and listening to others, I understand that historical lack of diversity sometimes in these studies. But what we have seen for Pfizer, Moderna, and J&J, again, they've had a great diversity in the population that they studied in their trials before they presented in front of the FDA for approval. So I think both Pfizer, Moderna, around 10% African American, 26% Hispanic, and 5% Asian. And then I believe Pfizer did over 45% 56 and older, and Moderna did 33% 65 and older. So again, a good age diversity. The J&J vaccine, they had a little higher Hispanic population, about 15%, African American 13%, Asian 6%, and then they also had a 1% Native American, which we didn't see in the other studies. But I do feel that these vaccines did a very good job representing people of color. And I have to say, just from what we are seeing in inpatient beds all around the nation, this vaccine doesn't discriminate. It's infecting everyone, all age groups, and all races.
Well, I'm really glad you're able to give us those numbers. Those numbers will be really important. I'm hoping that the information that's presented here today will answer many of the questions that people in the community have, and even maybe generate some conversation, some additional conversation, and that we will see people really respond positively to the available vaccinations that are available in the community, in every area of our country. And if I could just say this as well, I really appreciate you, Dr. Yarrow, for taking the time out of your schedule. I can only imagine how busy you are, and even your staff. So I really appreciate the work, your commitment to community, and commitment to those that are really battling with COVID, that are families that are struggling with loved ones that are COVID positive, and just your commitment to help and improve the health and well-being of those in our community. And for those that are watching, this is One Voice Lenawee. This is Dr. Yarrow with the Charles and Virginia Hickman Hospital here in Lenawee County, Adrian, Michigan. And we are just looking to spread information so that we can get the correct narrative out in communities, so that those who are seeking to really understand the truth of what's going on behind the vaccinations and taking place with COVID, that you'll have an opportunity to receive that. And again, if you're watching this show and you have any questions, please jot it down in the chat box. Please you can also reach us by Facebook, and you can instant message us as well. But you can put your questions, your comments, your thoughts right here. We'll be looking to address those further. Dr. Yarrow, I thank you, and I really appreciate you taking the time out of your schedule, and just being willing to really share your information with us.
Yeah, D'Angelo, thank you. Thank you for doing this and opening up communication. I think every vehicle we can use to get information out there is going to help. We all want a new norm, right? We don't want to live like this for much longer. So I appreciate everything you're doing, getting information out there in the community.
Thank you. This show is brought to you by sponsored by United Way. United Way, our sponsor for this show. And I encourage everyone that's watching to please join us. We will be available every other Monday at 6 p.m. That is going to be, I don't want to get this wrong. I should know this right. think that's every second and fourth Monday of the month. So we're encouraging everyone to come out and join us and be a part of the show, be a part of our audience. We are opening up space so that you can be a part of the studio audience right here with us, but it is limited how many individuals will be allowed to come into this space, but you are more than free to join us. All you have to do is sign up, and it's first come, first served. And we are looking to really bring a lot of valuable information to our community on a bi-weekly basis. Again, I really want to thank you, Dr. Yarrow. Thank you for being present. Thank you for being a part of the conversation. And I do have a present for you, and I'm going to give it to you. We were able to purchase these One Voice cups.
Yay. I love coffee. It's not good for you, but I love coffee.
No, so we will definitely make sure that one is available to you as well. And again, thank you for joining us on the show.
Thank you. And thank you to your listeners.
Thank you. Everyone that is here present with us, again, we want to thank you for being a part of our audience today. We want to thank you for joining us and just watching. And just looking for the opportunity to serve. If you are out there and you have some questions about random things, especially dealing with COVID and the vaccinations, if you have any questions, if you've heard some theories or some ideas out there that you're really not sure about and would like to have that information solidified, please submit that to our show. We would love to take your questions, find medical professionals that specialize in these areas that can address the concerns of our community. So please don't hesitate, don't hold back. Please, ma'am, please, sir, bring those questions to us, and we'll be more than glad to address this. This is One Voice Lenawee. We thank you for joining our audience. We thank you for being a part of our show.